when you did volume 2 with the hip hop, because you brought in artists that a lot of us like, oh man, Rakim. Although I didn't really recognize him because you see he was so far back in his throne. Black Sheep and
Eric Sermon,
Eric
Frushnikins, MC Search, MC Light, Arrested Development.
You had LL Cool J rapping as if he needed to rap as fast as he could and hard as he could to earn his meat. I mean, it almost, and that's actually the one that most of my generation from Nigeria were like, look at all the MC stuff. So they pushed past that, and I saw 2, then saw 1, and
you saw volume 2 first.
I saw volume 2 first because a lot of my friends who grew up in Nigeria were really big into hip hop, and so they really circulated that, and I was like, wow, this is volume 2. Let's see what 1 was. And then after I saw 1, I think the next week volume 3 was coming out, so I was waiting overnight for volume 3. Now my inspiration for music has always been Teddy Riley. So I've loved the sort of the 90s and late 80s and 90s. And so when you did volume 3, I just felt like, okay, I can rest now because this is it. These are all these records I bought, and these were, it was the most personal one for me because, and I think it was the one that really blew up. I don't know if from your point of view, is that the one that you thought sort of took it?
Well, I think it was all a trajectory, but I knew what 2 and 3 were going to be after 1. I didn't know I was ever going to do a 2 until 1 premiered. Yeah, there was no future. This was a one-off, but I immediately felt overwhelmed by the reaction to 1.
Wow.
10,000 people watched 1 live. And I went to bed so happy. I couldn't believe 10,000 people had come into this little thing I promoted with no help during a time when so many people were streaming things and there was so much to watch, in addition to, of course, regular TV and Netflix.
Yeah.
The second I saw the reaction the night of volume 1, I could have wrote down exactly what 2 and 3 would be song by song.
Wow.
I knew exactly what it would be. I knew those 2 eras. I knew who I was calling first. I knew how I would sequence it. Everything after developed, but 2 and 3, I knew exactly what, how, and why. Those were really the records I grew up on, on 2 and 3. That's really me as a 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old. And, they say the music you listen to as a child, is the music that you hold most dear to your heart. The music you listen to, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade in high school, that's those 2 episodes for me. And, people often ask me, I'm not sure if were you going to ask me what my favorite episode was, or were you going to refrain from that kind of question?
You know what? And the reason why it's important to know that, because someone that can ask me who's my favorite guest, and I know it's hard to pick, but everyone would say yes. El said it's like picking his children when I asked him what his favorite song is, but he had to give me a song. But out of all, you're going to your 9th one now. You've done 8. Well, we haven't seen 9 yet, but what is, which one was it?
What song did El DeBarge tell you?
Stay With Me.
I hate answering this, but I'm going to. Needless to say, and I know this is going to sound like boilerplate disclaimers, they all hold a tremendous place in my heart. And they really all make me emotional. Talking about volume 1 a few seconds ago, I didn't tear, but I actually got a little feeling in my heart. It makes me emotional talking about volume 1. There is one episode that's just like, it's just my everything. That's volume 2.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, hip hop's my first love.
You did say that.
It doesn't matter what I fell in love with after.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. Your first love holds a unique place in your heart that can never be changed.
Yeah.
So everything else after doesn't affect that. It affects everything else, but it doesn't affect your first love.
Yeah.
Hip hop is my first love. It's why I became a DJ.
Wow.
And if I had to say, gun to my head, what artist affected you the most? Those artists on volume 2 made me who I am. Hip hop is why I became a DJ. Hip hop is why I thought like I thought. Hip hop is why I dressed like I dressed. You know, I could explain to you why this cricket sweater is hip hop, why this hat is hip hop. I can explain to you why my jewelry is hip hop. You might not see it at first glance. It might not look like what you think is hip hop. It's all hip hop, and it all comes from hip hop. And my infatuation with every other artist on Pass the Mic comes from hip hop. Having Run DMC and LL Cool J set that off, after having Earth, Wind, and Fire set off volume 1, I mean, you can kind of just die a happy person.
But you are right, especially when you think about LL. You know, he did a little post of him staring at the wall, and I remember I Need Love. I mean, as a kid, and I went to, I was born in England, but I went to high school in Nigeria. So when he came out with I Need Love and I'm Bad, and when Run DMC went out, their music crossed from New York to parts of Africa like Nigeria. And for us, it was like, wow, this is interesting, unique. So to have the legendary GOAT and you know, the founding fathers of Run DMC, it was like, wow, this is unique, because they're not performing like that, you know, as a duo together. But you had them, Grand Puba, you had Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Young MC, yes. I mean, you know, Chop Rock, yeah, I love Chop Rock in Nigeria. You know, he's sort of almost like he's debating when he's speaking and stuff like that. And those of us who love Heavy D would have thought if he was still around, I'm sure, I would hope he would have made the addition. But Heavy was a friend of mine. Wow.
Whom I knew through O'Neill McKnight and Andre Harrell and Steve Rifkin, who's my partner on Pass the Mic and an executive producer. And Heavy would surely have been on the show.
Wow.
You know, I have a few regrets. You know, the Fat Boys should have been on the show before Prince Marky D passed. Houdini should have been on the show. I wanted Biz Markie to be on that show, but he was already not well at that time. But, you know, you can't look back. You can only look forward.
Yeah.
Hopefully there'll be other ways to tribute those artists that we've lost through the past 1.5 to 2 years. But yeah, that show holds a very unique place in my heart. You know, when I called LL, he said to me, "What song would you want me to do?" And I said radio. And he couldn't believe that I said radio. You know, he was so expecting me to say Mama Said Knock You Out or Around the Way Girl, or even Rock the Bells. I think those were the three. He never expected radio. And he said, why? He asked me why. So here's what I told him. I said, I'm celebrating what many people call the golden era of hip hop. And for those who don't use that word, many simply refer to it as the greatest era, like the founding era, the era when hip hop came into its own. People have, you know, all their own ways of describing it, but it's a very special era of not only hip hop, of music that changed the world.
Yeah.
And it was really the era I grew up on, this era of like 83 to 93.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wanted to tell a story, and I wanted the story to be told in a loose chronological matter. And I told him that I'm setting off the show with sucker MCs. And I said the next piece of that puzzle, in my mind, as a fan. Now, I didn't live it like LL. I didn't live it like Russell. I'm grateful to call them all. I'm grateful to call them all my friends, but I didn't live it. But from my perspective as a fan, the next piece of the puzzle after Sucker MCs has to be LL. It's how hip hop progressed and grew, musically, commercially. And I said, I want you to tell that story. And Mama Said Knock You Out doesn't tell that story. Radio tells that story. And I also want to do things that are unexpected on Pass the Mic. I don't want Run DMC to do Walk This Way or It's Tricky.
Yeah.
When I called DMC, he thought I was going to want Walk This Way or Tricky. And I explained the same thing to him. I said, this isn't about the biggest pop song or the most commercially successful. It's about iconic moments that bring you back to a place and tell a story. Yeah. And I was a little kid watching Crush Groove. And I was infatuated by the story of Def Jam. Obviously, Crush Groove is a synonym for Def Jam. It's the Hollywood version. And I was infatuated by the story of Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin and Run DMC and the Beastie Boys and LL Cool J. And the scene in Crush Groove in which LL walks into the room with Run DMC and Andre Harrell is an iconic scene. And I wanted almost to recreate that. He walks in and does that verse. He walks in and goes, my radio, believe me, I like it loud. I'm the man with the box that can rock the crowd. And when he came on the computer with me to do this, and I explained to him what to push and what to press, and I saw that he was wearing this Rock the Bells jacket that wasn't out yet and sunglasses, and he came prepared to remind people why he's referred to as the GOAT. Yeah. He really came prepared, and I was really honored, and still am. Talking about it, I get chills. I was really honored that he took it so seriously.
And well, that's what people saw. Yeah.
And when you watch that, he was the first person, including me. I hadn't come into my Pass the Mic own yet. Yeah. He was the first to go in and go out, and he held the boombox. But he's an actor. You can't forget he's an actor, and so he knows how to work even a shitty, laptop, low resolution camera. Yeah. He worked it, and he went in and out and back, and he worked it like no one had worked it, including myself. He changed the game on how people, I think, work the camera on the show. Yeah. But look, I have, moments like that for everyone. Every artist has given me a moment and a story.
Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, to press the notification bell so that you can be notified when we do have a new interview. Loads to come, but thanks a lot for watching.
I